Hello and welcome everybody to Tuesday's Cyber Skills. My name's Simon Linstead. I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community and your host for the show this evening. Now, we only decided about 3 hours ago we were going to run the show, so I'm very, very pleased to introduce my co-host and my guest for the evening, also a member of the InfoSec Live community. It's Matt Clavelli, and here he is. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate being on your show.
No, it's brilliant to have you on here. So, Matt, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, good question. So I'm an engineer, and I've had a variety of experiences, but what's common to all of them is that I care about what I do. I care about the people I work with and work for, and I try to deliver my best. So those desires and caring comes out when I teach and when I manage projects, which sounds different, but in both cases, I'm helping to guide and deliver people and products so that everything comes out better. So I see them as very similar to each other.
I think you can relate that to any industry that you're in. Tell us a bit about your background and how you got to be wanting to be involved in cybersecurity, Matt.
Oh wow, that's a good question. So, being in the Chicago area, which is home, and I don't want to leave it for anything if I can help it. I studied excuse me. I began my education in electrical and computer engineering because I love the how things as invisible or inanimate as electricity and machines could be animated and come to life. What are the secrets? Things like you look at a power line and you don't realize that there are imaginary numbers at work. You study in math class. Why do I care about the square root of -1 and what's this I business? But it's used anywhere there's AC electronics, or pretty much anywhere, because you got these. Anyway, I'm going to dive into this stuff if I'm not
Well,
careful.
I'm quite
But
interested in that. Tell me how
oh,
the
sure.
numbers relate. Tell me how the numbers relate to the electricity quickly.
Well, so that would get into a lot of mathematical theory, but basically, um, when you solve when you solve for these properties in AC electronics and using things like capacitors and inductors to manage the signal, they throw in an imaginary component. It's just how the characteristics of the device were derived based on what they do to the signals. So when you get these numbers, they have imaginary components, and you need them to either boost a signal or stabilize the signal and correct how off center the signal may be. And I'm trying to use very, very generic terms. If there's a tech person sitting there going, "What's wrong with him? He's full of gut," I'm trying to make this approachable for everybody. So,
It's because Matt,
and
Matt,
I
you
haven't.
know, you know my intelligence level, Matt. That's what it is. You're
Yeah,
very
oh,
technical
well, no,
correct.
you're better than that, But anyway, so I love the invisible stuff, and I tried to get into engineering, but everybody's always like, you weren't born with 5 years experience, so you get stuck doing support work and this kind of work, and then somebody knows you, and you start doing operations and things, and so I've always found jobs that I've had to adjust as I go, and prior experience wasn't directly a factor. But then, layoffs come off with the dot bomb and the recession and so on. And so I have to find something else to do. And then it's tough because, like, I'll see other people, and I'm trying not to complain too much, but there are people who don't have tech backgrounds, they don't have credentials, and they get hired for like VPs and program managers. And I have engineering degrees and cybersecurity degrees and project management background, and that's still not good enough. So when people talk about male privilege, I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it myself, at least not in terms of the working world. I totally respect the other stuff, but not this. So why did I get into cybersecurity? I still want to do the exploring and understanding the unknown, but I also want to be able to help with the people and technology in a very relevant and current industry of today. And so that's why I studied cybersecurity. It's very similar to engineering and the kinds of technology I've worked with. I'm hoping to develop a career at this mid-level stage of my life right now.
So when you say career, you've had a chance now after doing the degree and I suppose spending a bit of time in the community as a whole to look at the different options. And I know you've been actively applying for roles as well. Is there a particular area of the cybersecurity industry you want to focus on, or are you leaving it more open?
That's a good question, because on the one hand, it's like I love all these rules for business. You don't want to seem desperate, but the fact is, if you're job searching, you're job searching,
Yeah.
and there's no way to work around that. Ideally, I would like to use my project management to organize a team or lead a team and coordinate activities. I imagine a lot of people want more experience doing that. I mean, with project management, you have to have the experience to even get the certification, but some people still want more. To answer your question more directly, the whole purple team, the in between the red and the blue, seems to be where I fit best, because as somebody who teaches in between jobs, and I do love helping people and teaching, I like the research and I like the testing. So I just put in an order to have a defensive machine delivered. So once I connect that to my network, I'll be able to attack with Kali and observe and possibly defend with pfSense and Security Onion. So I'm hoping to put together some educational material around these items and see if I can't produce some videos.
I think from me looking in, your your ability and your love of teaching brings you into cybersecurity where there's a massive gap in the market, and whether that's educating businesses with cyber awareness or whether it's training in a specific area in actual cyber itself, I think there's huge opportunities there. And I'm conscious that we've got another member of the community backstage, and without giving you any pre-warning, JR, I'm going to bring you up on the stage with Matt and I now. Hey, JR, how are you?
Much better now that I see the two of you, especially Matt, since Matt throws these lead on questions or statements and then filters away because he's got allergies.
It's the
Oh
cat,
yeah,
isn't it? It's the cat.
cats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't dwell on that because we do focus a lot of our time talking about the cat allergies within the community. And JR, I'd like to know firstly what it is Matt ran away. He's done it again. Look, oh, he's back.
Yeah. See, there he is.
Hey, you'll be sneezing now.
No, he's fine.
Firstly, JR, please introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about who you are.
All right. I happen to be a member of InfoSec Live. I'm a U.S. veteran. I have an IT background of networks as well as an archaic programming language. So it's not like I'm totally ignorant. Just there's a gap.
Mostly, right? No.
Yeah. But my unemployment. See, you told me when I came in, you were talking about male privilege. I just already had an experience that really made me wonder if I was there, because they were telling me my gender or my background wasn't adequate to be with them.
Wow.
And just to calm down a little bit, it's a matter of I went to ISSA. There's a chapter in my state. I traveled 2 hours to get there one way. And to make this month when I attended, I got a dog between my legs, so excuse me.
I'm not touching that one.
No nasty, no funny thoughts, just that, I got to.
It's past 9 o'clock here. It's you guys in the States I'm worried about. It's all right.
But anyways, the organization was ISSA, which is International for Information Security Association. And to have these grown men tell me that, ask me what I was getting into. I remember there was the vulnerability management I had signed up that I haven't gotten to yet, in Security Plus. And they told me that their chapter was not the chapter for me.
Well, do you know what, JR? I also agree with them, because it doesn't sound like the chapter for anyone to me. And if you want to hang around with miserable old men, Matt and I are here every day. Every day.
No,
Look,
I know
let's move on from that, because I want to focus on some positive things, and I know you've
We
had a
get
negative
it.
experience with them, and I'm really sorry to hear about that. But
well, the
we're much.
answer the
Go on.
answer that I've been given by other ISSA members is to come down to their chapters in North or South Carolina, and it doesn't help me because I don't want to just attend a meeting and a presentation. I'd like to get into what their programs are. I'd like to get assistance. I don't necessarily want to be a child that always whines. I want to be an adult that sees some competence. Right now, I'm always being felt that I don't know anything. Well, that's true. I admit that. However, there are some things I do know, and I'd like to.
Yeah. You do know things, so
You
that's
do.
not a fair assessment.
It's not a fair assessment, and actually, it brings me back, JR, to what I was going to say a moment ago. Aaron, one of our audience members,
Knows
said,
me.
"What is the programming language that you used to use?"
Well, since Aaron knows me, he knows
Oh, there
that
we
I
go.
happen to know COBOL and Fortran.
Oh,
But
there we go, Aaron. That's cheating. Don't do
Formula
that.
translator.
But I mean,
and yes,
I'm not a programmer, and I'm no expert on languages. But there must be similarities between the structure and understanding codes.
Fortran is more used in scientific applications still because that's what's used in government in some cases. And then COBOL is still used by the Internal Revenue Service. It's still a mandate. I was just looking at his tongue out.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
But basically, it's still used and taught.
I'm going to send you a link, Aaron, and you can jump on here and argue with JR yourself.
Tell me if I'm wrong, JR, but isn't Fortran like unusual in the sense that that the code has to appear in certain columns of your screen? Like it's even more formatted than Python is. So
Yeah.
it's not just write some code and see if it works. It's
No,
you
it's
have to hit
not
things
like-
very,
it's not
very
like-
specifically.
Right. And unfortunately, COBOL is also an IBM. So there are prime words that can't be used in any other language, but in COBOL. And that's another thing which either shows the progression or degression of languages in general for people to understand when they're trying to learn a new program. I spent time trying to learn Python from the foundation up, and I didn't understand when it came to analyzing text files. And when a teacher doesn't explain that, or you can't find it in the textbook, it's really hard to comprehend. Why do you want to do that?
It is tough. The weird thing is when I used to practice software, but I never understood because at the time C was the big language. Now it's still big, but it's not popular. But like between addresses and pointers, and I didn't understand any of that until I started working with assembly language. With assembly language, as archaic and as weird as it is, each instruction does something specific. Like I have to pick up data, I have to move it, I have to put it down. And when you see it move through memory, then things become much more clear. Like, oh, there's those bits. I moved them. Now they're over here. And by combining them and reading them with this understanding, this interpretation, now it's not a letter, it's a number. And software made much more sense once I started doing that stuff. So I don't know if it's for everybody, but assembly helped me a ton.
It's strange how lots of different skills can come together to help. JR, What was it that Matt ran away from, what you were discussing before? The Sec Plus. Let's talk about that
comment
then.
that he made for Sec Plus is, I hope you guys are I'm getting together a group that's we're going to start soon. And then he filtered it away with his allergies. Don't know when don't know.
Next time I'll tell my nose to put it on hold. I got work to do.
You can use Vaseline.
Doesn't give me whether I should buy the bloody study guide or not. but we're going to have a group. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it takes
when
work.
are you going to organise that, Matt? Are you going to organise that this week or next week after we've done the verified panel or before?
Good question. I've been meaning to post the next chapter on the Purple channel. So, JR, I don't know if you saw the Purple channel on InfoSec Live,
made
but
a comment.
yes, okay.
That's the one where you're trying to make decisions, and I said it depends what's on your plate. Because
I haven't seen it since, so I'm sorry, but I don't have your same clip in my head.
He leaves.
Anyway, no, it's definitely it's definitely in the works. Meaning, I'm going to start posting chapters soon. I just between being I can't say sick because it was allergies, but it really threw me off. Between that and schoolwork, it's had me busy. But I want to post the next chapter this week, and Simon will definitely do the verification. I believe the popular vote is becoming Sunday. Does that still work?
I think so. Yeah, it works.
Then we can meet if you want beforehand, but let's do that Sunday. And as for the next chapter, I'm going to post material for the Security Plus. I'm going to try to do a chapter regularly each week. And if you want to participate in the discussion, you can do that in the Purple channel. If you want something more interactive, we can talk.
Thanks, Matt. JR, before you say anything, let me just say something quickly, if I can remember, because I get those short-term memory problems now. I'm 47, where I start to say something, and then I just completely forget. But I have remembered whilst rambling what it was, and it was a message that JR and I went back and forth about an hour ago, and the overwhelming message we're giving across at the moment to everyone watching this is there's so many options, so many different things, and it's really, really hard sometimes to know where to focus. And JR, we were talking, or you'd mentioned the word list. And
I did.
I want to bring up the word list because lists saved my life. And you'll see the whiteboard next to me here, very clean because I've completed my list. If I don't write a list down every day, my brain can't comprehend what I have to do. That's just the way it works. And I said back to you on the message about big list to little list. It's like a mantra that I chant in my head because I'll start off with a big list and then try and prioritize from that list. Not the ones I want to do first because they're the fun ones, which I used to do, but more the ones that are time bound and need doing first that will make an impact on the others. And since I've been doing that, I know it sounds like I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but since I've done that for the last 7 or 8 months, it's made a huge change to actually getting things done. Because I used to start 10 different things and finish one. Now I start 2 and might finish 1.
I've done the exact same thing, Simon, and if it helps, I decided that my New Year's resolution for 2021, or revolution, that's slightly different. My resolution was to do less because I'd always make a list of 10 items and then do maybe half. So I try to make my list no more than 5, and then I find myself doing more, which is nice. But then those random things become kind of sloppy. So I've been trying to keep a list of about 7 items. I get most of them done if I'm not too swamped, and it helps.
The problem with the list is the other things that happen that aren't on the list throughout the period of time where you're trying to tick off the list, and that's the bit I struggle with. Is
shopping, kids.
Just kids, really.
Yeah, kids will screw them up every time.
They do, and you get distracted, and it's then reminding yourself to get back on track. And if I'm honest, that's the bit that I struggle with. I'll get distracted by the coffee machine a lot when I'm downstairs.
Well, that's part of the routine. It should be part. There's routines, and then there's the extraordinary things like I said one day in the chat that I'm grieving over a cat, and I didn't realize when you have how long did I have the pet? I had the cat for 10 years. You get used to something or someone, and even though the interaction might be, radical for whatever, I miss the cat for what the cat would do, the routine. Yeah. And I didn't realize my grief per se manifests in the self that I couldn't focus.
Yeah.
So I have a few other things that have happened since then, like okay, the incident with the organization, my training is in a lull space because there's a problem I can't figure out by myself. So instead of whining, I went to a post today on LinkedIn. Pete Klein is going to offer some live events, and he was looking for what would we want to put in it. And it's like, could we? And two of us are stressed out because nothing's happened from our employment search. And the reality is employers don't want to hire people who know a little something. They want the people already trained, like yourself. They don't want us. They're not going to pay the money, and they're not going to do training to help us learn. So that's a big pill to not want to swallow right now.
And it's funny because even when things change,
sorry, Matt.
Real quick.
Does that not bring us back to my favorite subject, which is if there's not an employer out there, why don't we do something ourselves about it and maybe look at some consultancy work? And I know I've said this before, but there's so many people in our community and beyond in similar situations, all with different skill sets. And I know I kind of gave up on the agency when we set it up a couple of months ago because it came very stressful. We had a lot of success really, really quickly. And it was difficult, wasn't it, to try and manage all the work we had in and finding people who could do it. But there's definitely a market there for a group of people to collaborate together and provide a freelancing service. And I happened to look on Upwork this afternoon, and there's lots of opportunities on there at the moment for companies who want their staff trained. I mean, I'm not a trained cybersecurity person, but all three of us here know enough to go and train a company and their staff on the attack vectors and the techniques that are used. So I think, I don't know what it's like in the States working for yourself compared to what it's like in the UK. We don't get an awful lot of support here. I expect it's probably the same over there. And
it's the same
I'll be honest, it's easy for me to say I'm sitting here at the moment, I've put myself in a position through doing it. But
it's like the interest that I have about what's known as industrial controls.
Yeah.
The ones, they happen to be part of being on ships. And I haven't been on a ship for 20 years, but I know the systems to some degree. And to find out they're on the internet, they're in the cloud, just boggles me. Nothing like painting a target on a ship, no matter where it is in the ocean. And I think that's kind of, I want to go look at it to see what it looks like now and what kind of problems has it been hit. And yeah, here we go back with a learning curve, but I'm coming in, how do I say? I'm coming in naive, but wanting to learn.
Yeah, I think we've all come into this industry completely naively. I mean, I came in last year thinking I could pass OSCP after 6 months, which I clearly couldn't. And I realized that I wasn't actually smart enough to be a penetration tester. So I've ended up doing this instead. And I think it's called adapting and overcoming, isn't it? And
I've taken the wrong test.
Yeah, is that what it was?
Maybe. I mean, I know OSPF is. I don't know all the acronyms. I'm guessing that's the penetration one. I took the Pen Test Plus from CompTIA. It's a different one, but it focuses on specific subjects.
Yeah, it was difficult. It just made me realize that I didn't know enough of the basics, but I don't know enough of the networking basics to be a penetration tester. But what I've learned over the last, I suppose, nearly 2 years now, I definitely know enough to be a consultant to a business who needs some advice and be in a position to then bring in an expert who could do whatever it is they needed doing. And I think for everyone out there who's got age and experience on their side from previous industries, I think that is the easiest way by far to get into this industry at the moment, because if you can converse with people, you can have a conversation, you can engage people, then you're on a winner already.
And if I could add on to that real quick, based on like what JR was saying about the ships and the industrial controls, it's your past experience does count for something, whether a particular employer recognizes it or not, because you take the ships, for example. I've been in factories where even when they're still using the older controls and the PLCs and the industrial systems, they are adding the newer components that allow the internet to come in. But what happens then is the old technology was never designed to be secured or protected from outside
Influence.
connection. And
Yeah.
so that stuff is wide open, and now you have a brand new problem of how you protect it. So having knowledge of those internal systems gives you more background than somebody who comes out of school and says, "Hey, I know how to activate a firewall." Well, it's like, well, do you know about these PLCs and why we protect these and not those? So your experience does count.
Yeah.
And it's your understanding of the operational side of the ship or whatever it was you were involved with before as well that other people haven't got. And we touched on that on yesterday's show with Paul, Chris, and Alex, where the knowledge of business structure or the knowledge of military structure or whatever it is you've learned before, we forget that we've learned all this stuff when we get to being a bit older, and we don't realize that, my eldest son who's 22, whilst he's a bright lad, he hasn't had the life experiences that I have, and he hasn't seen the way businesses are so driven by profit, I suppose, as well, which you have to take into account a lot in cybersecurity from what I've seen. I think until recently it's become more of a bolt-on afterthought for some companies than it has.
Well, in this country, we never thought we would be a target. It wasn't until I did a research paper on an APT group called Lazarus Group that's recently showing it's now into espionage and sabotage. Before it was just in for the money, like Ravel is. And they had I came across University of Cambridge has a risk center, and they had also published a book done in PDF form, like 40 pages, and it showed the map of where all the cyber attacks that year had occurred. And the United States was being hit, was a solid color of a different color,
Yeah.
showing how many attacks. We think it's just sporadic. It wasn't until Colonial Pipeline when all of a sudden light bulbs coming on to the federal government and solar winds at the beginning of the year that all of a sudden, oh, people are attacking us during the internet.
Yeah. You say about attacking through the internet. My elderly mother my wife had a call from her this morning, half an hour earlier than we normally hear from her at 8:30, saying that she sounded really panicked. She'd had a message left on her voicemail at home from her bank saying that she'd had two transactions, one of 1,000 and one of 800 taken out. So my wife was on the school and I didn't have a car. So I said to her, I'll pop round as soon as my wife gets back. Well, my wife rang again before she got home to speak to my mum, and my mum's carer was there at the time. And luckily, it wasn't her bank at all. It was a scam call, and they were saying that Amazon had tried to take two payments, and for her to call a certain number back. But my mum's 83. She's got advanced onset Parkinson's. She's got dementia as well, and she must be on some kind of vulnerable list, because I think it's the second time she's had something like this happen now. And sorry, Jay, are you going to say something?
In the United States, I have a friend who's 71, and once a person turns 65 and they have to register with the government, Social Security, to get on Medicare, get Social Security if they're eligible. That's a new trick of Social Security. But the point is, somehow, as soon as you sign up, you end up getting on everybody's calling list for all these scam calls or tricks of Amazon calling. But very basically, my friend was wondering whether or not Social Security was selling the list that we are now, once you turn 65 plus, you become eligible for all these other marketing groups to
a whole new level of scam marketing. Yeah.
And the commentary is basically, sometimes you wonder, not even a day after you sign up for this, they're calling you and you're like, Well, where did you get my number? Well, when's the last time did I or my friend give the information? And yeah, you can pinpoint it to where.
It's not
Right
rocket
here.
science, is it? I'm conscious of time, and we're actually out of time. So I'm also conscious that we've all sat here for half an hour having a bit of a whinge today as well. So before we go, let's finish it on a positive. Matt, come on, tell me what positives we can drag out of what's happened the last couple of weeks in your search for cyber roles.
In my search, well, I'm finding that a lot of people care and they reach out and they want to help and people want to solve these problems. And if I don't always get the best opportunity I'm looking for, I know that there's something else coming and I'm going to keep looking. So just keep studying, keep working, be your best, and stay in communication with everybody. Keep those connections going. Something will come up eventually.
I think that "don't be alone" message is one that I'd give out as well. And it can be lonely studying, and it can also be lonely when you're banging your head against a brick wall looking for work. And whilst we might not have an answer for that at InfoSec Live for everyone all the time, we do have a place where we hang out and whinge together and talk about cat allergies and salsa making, which we haven't touched on this evening, but Matt is a bit of an expert. So if you are similar to us in that you're looking for your next role in cyber or looking to raise your game, do come and join us at InfoSec Live. I'm going to finish by handing across to JR for her words of wisdom and positivity before I play you out with a little clip from a video from our members. JR, give us some words of wisdom, please.
Keep your chin up, be nice to people, and do at least one good deed a day.
There we go. Look at
There you
that.
go.
That's the best advice. Thank you so much for watching. Matt, thank you. JR, thank you. We'll see you all soon. Take care.
Bye.
And it's been so great to be part of this awesome community where you can learn, get potential jobs, and this is the part that the community has helped me the most, being able to get a great contract in security, and thanks for this.
You don't have to be super experienced in order to contribute. They really foster a sense of community, and they encourage everybody to contribute anything that they can, regardless of whether you're just starting out in your career or if you've been in the career for decades. I like the different challenges that they have, the different pathways that you can follow, the fact that you can join communities that are specific to you and your needs. It's a new and growing and thriving group, and I'm really proud that I was able to be a part of it from almost the very beginning.
It's given me a community I could lean on, and the people in there are always willing to help. I've also gotten to break into cybersecurity because of InfoSec Live, and I'm very grateful for that.
Cybersecurity professional or trying to become one, you need to get onto InfoSec Live.
Whether you are brand new to the field, whether you are pivoting from another IT career or you are pivoting from a non-IT career, this is the place for you to. Also, even if you are an experienced professional, there will be something here that you can learn.
InfoSec Live has been great for me because it's brought me closer to other like-minded people, and I've been able to pick the brains of some real industry experts that are also part of the community.
To the right place, because listen, let me tell you that InfoSec.live is everything that it claims to be. A vibrant community. They've got all that you need on InfoSec.live. Listen, they tell you InfoSec.live is addictive. Get on board. Come and get addicted.
Get on InfoSec now.